They say every first job teaches you something. Mine taught me how close a stranger's smile can come to destroying your sense of safety. I still remember that night at QuickBite Diner, the sound of the bell above the door, the hiss of the fryers and his eyes watching me from across the counter. I thought it would be just another late shift. I was unaware that I was about to encounter the man who would haunt every shadow I pass. I was 17 when I got that job. QuickBite wasn't glamorous, cheap uniforms, sticky floors, and a constant smell of fries that clung to my hair, but it helped me save for college. The people were decent, the regulars friendly, and the lights inside always made the place feel safe. At least back then. It was around 5 in the evening when he first walked in. The dinner rush had just started with people laughing and kids shouting for milkshakes. Typical chaos. Then the crowd shifted, and I saw him, tall, mid-30s, black windbreakers, messy hair, pale gray eyes. He looked ordinary, but there was something wrong in the way he stared. Not like a customer waiting to order, but like someone memorizing me. "Evening," I said, trying to sound casual. "What can I get you?" He didn't glance at the menu. Instead, he leaned on the counter, voice soft, almost polite. "You've got a lovely smile," he said. "Mind giving me your number?" I blinked, taken aback. Sorry, I can't. Company rules," he smirked. "I didn't inquire about your rules. I asked what you want." My throat tightened. "No, thank you." The smirk vanished. His jaw clenched as he muttered something I couldn't catch, something that sounded like, "You'll regret that." And he turned sharply, walking out without ordering anything. I laughed it off when my coworker asked what happened. But deep down, that brief exchange left me uneasy. It wasn't what he said. It was how he looked at me, like he wasn't asking, but choosing. The next few hours flew by. By 8 p.m., the crowd had thinned, and I finally started cleaning up around the counter. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, the smell of grease hanging thick in the air. I was half asleep on my feet when the bell above the door rang again, and there he was. It was the same man. Same jacket. He maintained the same icy gaze. My stomach dropped. He walked to the counter, calm as ever, that eerie smile stretching across his face. "Hey," he said. "Sorry about earlier. I had a terrible day." I forced a polite smile. "It's okay. You want to order something?" He shook his head slowly. "Nah, just wanted to apologize." Then he just stood there, no food, no drink. There was no justification for him to remain. He just stood, eyes fixed on mine. I turned away, pretending to restock straws. When I looked again, he was sitting at one of the tables by the counter, facing me directly. Every few minutes, I'd glance up and catch him staring. No phone, no bag, no movement, just watching. By the time my shift ended at 10, he was still there. My coworker Nate came from the kitchen drying his hands. "Are you doing well? You look pale." I nodded toward the man. "He's been here for hours." Nate glanced and frowned. "Want me to say something?" Before I could answer, the person stood up, walked out, and got into a gray sedan parked right outside. He didn't start the engine. Didn't drive away. He just sat there, headlights off, staring at the diner through the glass. I waited 20 minutes before I dared to leave. Nate walked me out, and I tried not to look at the car, but I could feel his eyes through the windshield. I got in my car, locked the doors, and pulled out. The sedan followed. Every turn I took, it stayed behind me. Right, left. This continued even after I had circled the block twice. I finally pulled into a gas station, pretending to refuel. The car slowed beside the curb. He looked at me, that same smirk again, and drove off. I stood there shaking, pretending to breathe normally until he was gone. For days after that, I tried to convince myself it was coincidence. Maybe he lived nearby. Maybe I was imagining things, but deep down I knew better. 3 nights later, he came back. I saw him before he saw me, sitting in the same booth, a cold cup of coffee in front of him. His jacket was zipped all the way up and he hadn't even touched the drink. I was too scared to tell the manager, too afraid to worsen it. He sat there for hours, eyes never leaving me. Then around 9, he stood up and went to the restroom. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. Nate went to check. When he came back, his face was pale. "There's no one in there." My blood went cold. We both walked to the front, scanning the parking lot. Under the flickering streetlight sat the same gray sedan. The driver's door is wide open, empty. The manager called the police, but by the time they arrived, the car had vanished. No license plate caught, no description that matched anyone in the area. That night, when I finally got home, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Drive safe tonight. Emily. My breath caught. I hadn't told him my name. Not once. I showed Nate the next morning. He froze. The cops traced the number to a prepaid phone, unregistered, untraceable. The last signal pinged right behind QuickBite Diner around 10 p.m. This was the exact time I received that message. I quit the next week. I never saw him again. At least, not in person, but occasionally I still hear the bell over that door in my dreams. I look up, and he's there, leaning on the counter, whispering, "Didn't ask what you're allowed to do. I asked what you want to do." People laugh when I tell the story. They say I overreacted. The customers are weird all the time. But I know what I saw in his eyes. It wasn't interest, it wasn't anger. It was possession, like he thought I already was. His. And that's what makes it so terrifying. Because when someone like that chooses you, they don't need your number to find you. When my mom remarried, I wanted to be happy for her. She'd worked 2 jobs for years after Dad left, raising me and my little sister Clara completely on her own. So when she met Greg, the quiet guy from her office who smiled too much and never raised his voice, I told myself it was fine. He made her laugh. That should have been enough. But it wasn't. Because from the very first week he moved in, I knew something about Greg was wrong. He was obsessed with QuickBite. The first time we all ate there together, he called it his happy place. He said the smell of fries made him feel safe. I laughed it off, thinking it was a joke. But soon it stopped being funny. Breakfast? QuickBite at lunch? QuickBite dinner? Guess where? At first, Mom thought it was endearing, his little ritual. But the way he stared while eating, the way his jaw clenched, his eyes fixed on us like he was waiting for something, it gave me chills. Clara didn't notice. She adored him. I was the only one who felt that crawling unease every time he said, "Let's go to QuickBite." My favorite family spot. Weeks turned into months, and Greg's obsession deepened. He bought branded mugs, napkins, and toy collectibles. He even kept the old QuickBite Mascot doll, the one with a huge plastic grin on the kitchen shelf. I caught him talking to it once, whispering. One evening, Mom announced we were ordering from a Chinese place for a change. I swear I saw Greg's whole face twitch. He forced a laugh. "What's wrong with QuickBite?" Mom smiled politely. "We've had it every day this week, Greg. Let's try something different." He slammed his fork down so hard the table shook. "You're tired of me, not the food." "Greg, calm down," Mom said softly. "It's just dinner." He stood up, glaring at all of us. "You don't get it. QuickBite keeps us together." Then he stormed out. That night, he didn't come home. 2 days later, Greg returned looking like he hadn't slept. His hair was oily, his eyes were rimmed in red, and the QuickBite cup was still in his hand. He set a paper bag on the table. "I brought dinner," he said flatly. "Family night." Mom said nothing. We ate quietly. He stared at us the entire time, chewing slowly, eyes darting between me and Clara. When dinner ended, he turned to Mom. "I'm glad we're back together," he said. "QuickBite makes everything better." His voice was calm, but it didn't feel like Greg anymore. That night, thunder rolled outside. Mom was upstairs finishing paperwork. Clara and I were in our shared bedroom. Sometime after midnight, I woke to a faint scraping sound. The door creaked open. At first, I thought it was Mom, until I saw the red and yellow fabric. A tall figure stepped into the room wearing a QuickBite Mascot costume. A full-bodied red suit with a giant painted grin. The eyes on the mask were black holes. I froze. Clara stirred beside me, whispering, "Who's that?" The mascot tilted its head, giggling in a voice that was far too familiar. "It's family night," Greg's voice crooned from beneath the mask. "Say the slogan, kids." "I'm loving it," Clara whimpered. He lunged toward her bed, shaking her shoulders, laughing and chanting the words over and over. "I'm loving it." "I'm loving it." I screamed for Mom. The light flicked on as she burst into the room. "Greg, "What are you doing?" He froze, still wearing the mask, then turned to us slowly. For a moment I saw nothing but madness behind those eye holes, pure obsession. He backed toward the window, muttering, "You ruined it. You don't appreciate family." Then, before anyone could stop him, he smashed through the glass and tumbled into the yard. Mom dragged us outside. Greg was standing under the porch light, blood dripping down his arms from the broken window glass, still smiling beneath the cracked mask. He looked straight at us and whispered, "QuickBite makes everything better." Then he ran off into the dark. The police found him 3 days later in an abandoned warehouse near the old QuickBite on Pine Street. He was sitting cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by empty wrappers and toys, humming the company jingle. They said he laughed the whole way to the patrol car. Mom divorced him immediately and got a restraining order. For months, Clara refused to eat anything from any restaurant. Even the smell of fries made her cry. We eventually moved out of town, but I can never forget that grin, half paint, half blood, hovering in the dark above my sister's bed. People say obsession is just passion taken too far, but they're wrong. Obsession is when love starts rotting and turns into madness. And whenever I pass a QuickBite today, I see the posters of their smiling mascot, and I wonder if Greg's still out there somewhere, behind that mask, still loving it. They say danger announces itself with shouting and sirens. That's not true. Sometimes it comes sitting quietly at the end of a vinyl booth, pretending to mind its own business, and it smiles when your mom walks away. I was 9 the summer it happened. Mom took me, my little sister Maya, and my cousin Ethan to QuickBite on Brookfield Avenue after a long day at the park. We were sunburned, sweaty, and starving, the kind of hungry that makes the smell of fries feel like a spell. It was just before sunset. The dining room was busy but not loud, and we found a long booth near the restrooms, the kind that runs the length of the wall so it's easy for 3 kids to slide in and make a mess. The only thing about the booth I didn't like was the view. Straight down the line of tables to a man sitting alone. He looked like the kind of grandpa you'd see at a bus stop. Thick gray hair combed back the wrong direction, big square glasses from some other decade, and a beige windbreaker zipped to his neck even though it was July. He had a plastic cup sweating on the table and a phone face down beside it. When we came in, he didn't look up. He just dabbed his napkin at a ketchup spot that wasn't there. We'd barely started eating when my baby brother, still in his car seat beside Mom, started coughing in that panicked way that empties a room. His face turned red, he gagged. Fries went everywhere. Mom scooped him up so fast her chair skidded. "I'm taking him to the bathroom," she said, already moving. "Ethan, stay with them. I'll be right back." Ethan puffed up a little because he was 11 and in charge now. Maya stared at the ketchup on her shirt like it had betrayed her. I watched the bathroom door swing shut behind Mom and listened to the air conditioner thrum. That's when the man at the end of the booth finally looked over. "Hey there," he said, gentle, harmless. "Is the little one okay?" Ethan nodded. "Yeah, he just choked." "That can be scary," the man said, and he smiled like a concerned neighbor. "You kids doing all right?" "We're fine," I said, because being 9 means wanting to be older than you are. He glanced at his watch. "Getting late for little ones." "How old are you?" We told him. We shouldn't have, he asked our names. We gave those too. Then he tapped the face-down phone with one finger like he'd forgotten it was there. "Oh," he said, as if surprised by a nice coincidence. "Your mom just texted me. She says the baby is still sick and they'll be a while in there. She wants me to give you a ride home." Ethan blinked. "My aunt doesn't have your number." The man chuckled softly, the way adults do when kids misunderstand something. "Friend of a friend," he said. "We all live in the same neighborhood. Come on." I parked close so we don't have to cross the whole lot. He stood up. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Something about the way he stepped into the aisle made the dining room get smaller. The air felt sticky like cola drying on a table. He held out a hand. Not the palm-up kind adults use with toddlers, but the palm-down kind you offer to a dog so it can smell whether you're safe. Ethan hesitated. I could see him doing the math. Mom would be happy if we were helpful. The man looked like somebody's grandpa. The rules about strangers were clear when it was a cartoon villain in a black hat, but harder when it was a polite voice and a windbreaker. "We should wait here," I said, but small. He squeezed his eyes in a way that was supposed to be kind. "Your mom is counting on me." Then he took Ethan's wrist. It wasn't a yank. It wasn't even rough, but it was ownership. He hooked 2 fingers around and gave a little tug, a gesture that said, "This is settled." "Come on, kids," he said. "Let's be helpful." Ethan stood because the world has taught polite boys it's ruder to make a scene than to be in danger. Maya slid out after him, confused, looking to me to see if this was okay. I was 9. I didn't know how to stop an adult with my voice. I knew how to be good. I knew how to obey. We followed him past the soda fountain, past the napkin station, past the bright boards glowing with menu photos that suddenly looked like warning signs. The glass doors sighed open and the heat outside wrapped around us. The parking lot had that summer evening smell: tar, oil, and dried grass. He led us toward the side of the building where the light didn't reach. That's where I saw it. An old white van low to the ground with one of the back doors slightly ajar. Like a mouth. The sight of it yanked something loose inside me. Every red ink poster from school assemblies, every after-school special my mom rolled her eyes at, all of it flooded back in a rush. Never go to a second location. Doors that open from the inside can be locked from the outside. If someone says your mom sent them, find your mom. "I forgot my toy," I blurted. "I left it inside." "We'll get it later," he said, and he squeezed Ethan's wrist a little harder, and to me he offered the empty palm again, just like before. My skin prickled. Fear isn't one feeling. It's a choir. 100 tiny voices all singing the same note in your bones. "I have to tell Mom," I said louder. "I can't go without telling Mom." That was the moment his face changed. It didn't twist into a snarl. It didn't turn monstrous. It turned flat, like I wasn't a person anymore, just an obstacle on a grocery list. "Get in the back," he told Ethan calmly. "You two climb in and sit on the floor. It'll be easier to get moving." He slid the side door the rest of the way open. The inside was dark and smelled like something damp. There were no seats. Just a gray blanket and a milk crate. Ethan froze. Maya took my hand without looking down, fingers cold. The man put one foot on the bumper to hoist himself up. "Hey!" A voice shouted from the front doors. "What are you doing?" It was a teenage guy from the counter. Acne scars, a paper hat crooked on his head, running toward us with the manager right behind him. The teen had that fearless speed adults can't match. The man's head snapped toward the sound. In the same motion, he dropped Ethan's wrist, swung the van door shut with a brutal slam, and yanked the driver's door open. The engine coughed to life like it had been asleep a long time. "Mom!" Maya screamed, and when I turned, there she was, bursting from the bathroom hall, baby on her shoulder, face like white fire. The van peeled out so fast the open back door banged against the frame twice before latching. I saw the man's glasses flash in the sunset as he turned his head. I'll never forget that strobe image. 2 squares of light where human eyes should be. Then he was gone. For a minute, the parking lot was just noise. My mom shouting our names, the manager on the phone with 911, and the teen employee's breath wheezing because he'd sprinted without thinking. My legs felt like water. Ethan stood with his hands held out awkwardly in front of him like he didn't know what they were for anymore. Mom gathered us like a shield and then folded us in. "If anyone touches you, ever scream," she said into our hair, and her voice broke on the last word. Police came. Reports were filed. The security cameras at QuickBite had caught him at the soda fountain, but not in the lot. The front lens was pointed too high. The side one had a glare. The plates were muddy or missing. An officer asked us for details we didn't have. Any tattoos? Any bumper stickers? I remembered the smell. I remembered the blanket. I remembered the way his voice never rose. We went home without finishing dinner. My brother slept, worn out from the scare. Mom didn't. She sat at the end of the hallway with a baseball bat and a will stronger than steel. For weeks I checked the back seat before getting in the car. I checked the closets. I checked the spaces under beds even though I knew a van couldn't fit there. At school, when dismissal time came and cars lined up like obedient animals, I watched for a white rectangle in the line and felt my stomach fold. I kept replaying the moment he'd said, "Your mom just texted me." It was a sentence built like a trick coin. Flip it one way and it bought you safety. Flip it the other way, and it bought you the end of yourself. I tried to imagine what would have happened if the teen hadn't looked up. If the manager had been in the back office. If mom hadn't come out when she did. Children's lives are a long chain of ifs held together by the luck of watchful eyes. A month later, a detective called to say they'd found an abandoned white van 2 towns over. No plates. Inside, a milk crate, an old blanket, a box of mints, and 3 spare pairs of big square glasses. Wiped clean. No fingerprints that matched anyone. The detective's voice was careful, like a person carrying a glass full of dark water across a crowded room. He asked if we wanted to come see if we recognized anything. Mom said no. I was glad. I didn't want to smell that smell again. Summer stretched on. We learned new routines. No bathroom trips without all of us together. No leaving the table, and no trust in a quiet voice with a gentle smile. QuickBite stopped being a treat. It was a place with exits and sightlines. Ethan started carrying a tiny pocket knife that his dad said was for fishing but really wasn't. He showed it to me once, handshaking with the weight of how useless it probably was. We both pretended it helped. When school started, our counselor had us write about a time you were brave. I wrote about telling the man I needed to find my mom. It looked small on the page. It felt small compared to the scream I hadn't found in my throat. Here's the part you won't like hearing. I still remember his first question to us. Not where do you live? Not do you want candy? He asked, how old are you? Like he was fitting us into a pattern. The thought makes me cold. There are people who move through the world searching for a shape their evil can fill. Years later, I drove down Brookfield at dusk for the first time since we moved. QuickBite had a fresh coat of paint and a sign that blinked just a little. Families came and went, kids dragging parents by the wrist toward the toy display. It looked safe again, like a place where nothing bad could happen if you stayed in the light. But every time a white van rolled past, my hands tightened on the steering wheel until my knuckles shined. I don't hate vans. I don't think they're cursed. I don't think every man with square glasses is a monster. I think evil dresses itself in whatever clothes will get invited close. People ask, how do you keep your kids safe? I don't have perfect answers. But I know this. The right to stay where you are, even in a cheap vinyl booth under a buzzing light, is a kind of freedom worth teaching. If a stranger tells you your mother said to go, you go find your mother. If a polite voice says, trust me, you listen to the smaller voice that says no. I used to believe danger would announce itself, giving me time to prepare. Now I know better. It waits in the corner booth of ordinary rooms. It holds a door open. It says, I'm helping. That summer taught me a different kind of alphabet. A is for ask mom. B is for booth. Stay in it. C is for cars with open back doors. And the rest of the letters? They spell the life I still have because one teenager looked up from rolling straws and decided the worst thing he could do was nothing. We never planned to stop that night. The rain was heavy, the streets were half empty, and the clock on the dashboard glowed 12:47 a.m. when my best friend Lena said, if I don't eat something now, I'll die before we get home. We'd just finished an extra shift at the design firm, 8 straight hours of silence, deadlines, and caffeine. The city felt asleep, except for the yellow glow of one lonely building up ahead. QuickBite Express, the 24-hour branch near the highway. Warm light. Familiar logo. Comfort food. We pulled in without a thought. The parking lot was slick and silver from the rain. A man in a red and yellow uniform was dumping garbage bags by the dumpster. The way his face glistened in the light made me think of wax melting. He looked up as we parked and smiled. Too long. Too still. Friendly, Lena muttered, killing the engine. Inside, the store was silent. The air smelled of grease and old mop water. Behind the counter stood another employee, thin, hollow-eyed, scrolling through his phone until we stepped forward. He flinched like he hadn't expected customers. Hi, I said. Can we get 2 cheeseburgers, 2 coffees, and some fries? He blinked, hesitated, then nodded. Will that be all? Yeah, I said, okay. You can sit. Food will be ready soon. We sat at a corner booth by the window. The rain outside turned everything into moving glass. The fluorescent light above us buzzed like a trapped insect. 10 minutes passed, no food, no sound. The cashier was still behind the counter, phone in hand, glancing up every few seconds like he was timing something. Lena leaned toward me. Why is it so empty? Maybe it's closing time. It's 24 hours, she whispered. That's when the man from the dumpster came back inside. He didn't look at us at first, he just walked up to the counter, leaned in and whispered something to the cashier. They both laughed quietly, a sound too soft to understand. Then the cashier grabbed a small metal key, walked to the entrance, and locked the front door. My stomach tightened. Excuse me, I said. Why'd you lock it? He looked over his shoulder with a half smile. Protocol. It only locks from the outside. We're done taking new customers. The words didn't sound like reassurance, they sounded like practice. Lena frowned. Couldn't you do that after we leave? He shrugged. We use the back door. He turned the closed sign around and went back to the counter. The clock ticked. The fryer hummed. My heartbeat filled the silence. Lena stood. Let's just take the food to go. The cashier's smile barely moved. Sure, wait here. He disappeared. Through the swinging door to the kitchen, we didn't wait. Walked to the front door and tugged the handle. Locked. Just like he said. The metal didn't even rattle. Behind me, the lights flickered once, then went completely out. Darkness. Okay, Lena whispered, voice shaking. That's not funny. Our phone flashlights cut 2 pale circles through the dark. My beam caught something first. 2 greasy handprints on the inside of the glass door. Fresh. Then, movement. The dumpster man was suddenly standing 10 feet away, half hidden in the kitchen doorway. His teeth glimmered when my light touched him. He was whispering to someone behind him. I couldn't make out the words, but I caught 2 of them. Last order. Lena, I said quietly. Back door. We moved along the wall, careful not to make noise. Behind us came the slow rhythm of footsteps on wet tile. The smell of garbage, rotting and sour, filled the air. A shadow moved between the booths. The man from the counter stepped out of the darkness holding something metallic in his hand. It looked like a kitchen scraper, maybe a spatula, maybe a knife. Where are you girls going? He asked softly. Lena whispered, Run. We bolted toward the back hallway. My flashlight bounced across faded posters. Smile. You're at QuickBite. The irony made me want to scream. We hit the kitchen door. It swung open into the dark back room where the machines hummed like slow breathing. I could hear their footsteps chasing us, rubber soles sliding on the greasy floor. Left, I yelled. We turned a corner and slammed into metal shelves stacked with napkins and plastic lids. Boxes rained down around us. I saw the faint rectangle of the emergency exit sign ahead. But the sound of keys jingling echoed in the darkness. It locks from the outside, a voice. Mocked behind us, the red exit sign. Flickered off, then on again. The door was right there, maybe 20 feet away. I grabbed a metal tray from a shelf and threw it behind me. It clanged, echoing like gunfire. In the second wave of confusion it brought us, we sprinted. The handle stuck for half a heartbeat, then gave. The door flew open, a blast of cold rain slapping my face. We stumbled into the alley, slipping on the wet ground, hearts crashing against our ribs. Behind us came a shout and the thud of running feet. Get back here, someone roared. We didn't stop. We tore across the lot, nearly falling twice before diving into the car. Lena's hands shook so badly she missed the ignition twice. The headlights caught them for a split second. 2 shapes at the back door, one raising a hand to shield his eyes, the other still holding something shiny. The engine roared to life. We peeled out, tires shrieking, water spraying behind us like ghosts trying to hold us back. We didn't stop until we reached the gas station 5 miles down the road. The clerk watched us stumble in, drenched, crying, and breathless. When we told him what happened, he called the police immediately. The officers reached the QuickBite around 2 a.m. They found the front door locked, lights on again, and the place spotless. Both employees were gone, but out back, behind the dumpster, they discovered a pit dug, shallow into the mud, half filled, with trash bags and something that looked like old uniforms. Inside one of the bags was a wallet belonging to a missing woman who'd last been seen near that same QuickBite 2 weeks earlier. The police told us later. that the two men identified through old employee records had been fired from another branch months ago for harassment and theft. They'd been drifting from job to job, pretending to still work for the chain. QuickBite Corporate shut that location down for renovations. It never reopened. It's been 3 years, but I still flinch when I hear the buzz of fluorescent lights. Lena won't eat at fast food places anymore. She says it's not the food she fears. It's the quiet moments between the orders, the way the world can turn empty in one blink. Every time I drive past an all-night diner, I check the sign. If it says closed, I feel a kind of peace. Perhaps this indicates a sense of safety. Sometimes safety means fewer open doors. That night at QuickBite Express, we were not considered customers. We were the last order.